is the Conservative Colonel Podcast with Harrison Daws, where one man stands against the rising tide of liberalism. This officer in the battle to preserve our nation is the Conservative Colonel.
Nothing ends here. Our hopes and our journeys continue.
And here's Harrison Daws.
Welcome back to the Conservative Colonel Podcast. I'm your host, Harrison Daws. I'm joined by Graves Baker of Make America Great Again and Sam. Before we get started, I will say that, funny enough, I guess crappy luck for me, considering usually a conservative podcast most listened to time is during an election. I'm no longer busy now after the election. So isn't that some irony? So hopefully you will join me in rebuilding the Conservative Colonel Podcast and getting back our weekly episodes. We are going to hit our 1-year anniversary in November. So let's see here. November 14th is the 1-year anniversary of the Conservative Colonel Podcast. We should be, 20 episodes ahead right now, coming in on episode 50. It'd be like that sometimes, but we are going to rededicate ourselves and get this podcast back where it needs to be. We were actually talking a bit behind the scenes before we got started on ways to get the podcast recorded on time from now on. Feel bad for me and Graves, and hopefully Sam, if he can join us a good bit, is we're going to have to start recording in the morning. And if you know me, I might be a farmer, but I hate mornings with a burning passion. So they get to see me grumpy, upset, and probably even more pissed off at the liberal.
Well, I'm kind of the same way because I had a really good management team here around me, and I'm telling you, I would not wake up sometimes until noon or 11 in the morning.
That's
and
impressive.
they did everything all day. We still got everything done. So,
Graves, I wish I had your management team just to run my life. Holy crap. I would love to sleep in until 12 every day. I did sleep in until 10 today, and that was a massive mistake for someone who's self-employed. But make sure, again, you support the podcast. Check out conservativecolonel.com. It's our website. You can email the host. You can check out the story of the Conservative Colonel Podcast. Check out Great Conservative Allies, some of my favorite podcasts to listen to, and just some great conservative minds like The Midnight Ride, Chris McDaniel's America, and Jack from the Right Side radio program. Also, of course, on the website is a link to all our podcast platforms, our most recent episodes, and best of, as well as our store, which we are about to have some awesome releases on. And, also a link to our social medias, which we're about to get more active. So, going back to it, though, make sure you check us out on your podcatcher of choice. Our main platform is Spreaker, and then we're on Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon Music and Audible, Cashbox, Deezer, Podcast Addict, Podcast Chaser, Listen Notes, and Good Pods. If you'd like to see the video format of the show, those are released on Tuesdays, and you can check that out on Rumble and YouTube. New episodes will start releasing again on Thursdays. May the good Lord help us. But again,
this one will be out on Thursday.
Yeah. Well, actually, it released one on time. I don't know when was the last time I did that. Maybe the 25th episode, July 4th. So I am joined again by Graves Baker and Sam. And I don't think it's a spoiler anymore. I was going to film this episode yesterday night, but the election, of course, didn't get called till 2 a.m. And at that point, I was like, I'm not traveling 20 minutes into town to my studio. I'm nice. I'm comfortable. I'm in bed watching the election results. I'm good. So we decided to go ahead and just talk about it in full tonight. and save what I was going to do this Thursday for next Thursday. So, if you don't know, you have a new president-elect, Donald J. Trump, the 45th, the 45th and 47th president of these United States of America. And what's
Hasn't been
impressive,
done since Grover Cleveland.
ironically, the last time I would say, with the exception of Ronald Reagan, someone who fixed the economy, got voted out of office, and the economy got jacked up, and they basically were like, please come back, sir, was Grover Cleveland. And we brought one of our previous guests, Ryan S. Walters, who is a historian like myself, said, Grover Cleveland was probably one of the last great conservatives before we had Ronald Reagan. And he was a Democrat. So that's a head scratcher. But he was more in, of course, the father of conservatism, Thomas Jefferson, than the rest of that party. So it is funny to see history repeat itself. If you study history like I do, you find that it happens a lot more than you would think. And I hope history treats Trump better, and time can treat Trump better than it did poor Grover Cleveland, who has been forgotten to history, even though he's a great conservative president and leader. But I feel like now at least the podcast will have a chance to grow in this economy, as well as my other businesses. But I think Trump has set himself up for an amazing 4-year term. Whatever he does, I think will have a lasting impact on this country.
Yeah, and you know what I was talking about with my last night? I'm at a different Airbnb now, but these guys that work for me, they got this Airbnb for 2 nights. They all went home today, but man, we were just watching the results, and when they were coming in, I remember we were so pumped. We were like, there's no way, there's no path to victory for them. But just, the mood in the room, it was like I spent 4 years worrying about this, doing this. Mm-hmm. That's why I'm so tired right now. I got no sleep last night. 2 a.m. we were like, we just saved America. And that's really the feeling right now.
Yes.
And Sam has had a lot to do with it too. He's on that media side, and we've won the culture war, I think, on the media side.
Well, here's the thing too, is that no matter where you're kind of looking at it now, I was just watching Fox and Jesse Waters before jumping on here, and Fox or Waters and a couple other people, the biggest losers of the election are not just Kamala Harris. It's Kamala Harris and the media. Both are the losers of the election. The media had done everything they could to try to propagate and spin for Biden and Kamala whenever, they booted Biden to bring her in, by then saying crime is actually down. Oh, and the economy is great. Inflation is down. Joe Biden is mentally fit to run for office. And so the media had done everything they possibly could. And Joy Reid even said, that they did their job in trying to do everything they could to help.
Oh, they freaked
Kamala
out.
Harris. They were. My favorite one is Joe Scarborough, whenever he called Latino and Black voters sexist, and then called Hispanic voters racist.
Yep, I was going to talk about that.
That's probably my favorite one. My favorite, meltdown that I have seen.
I don't know how you can say that they are. Yeah.
If you disagree with them, you must be a sexist or a racist. Now, they love throwing out racist. The sexist one's a new one. I'm sure they'll keep that around for 4 years or so.
I had 125 different people work for me here. I got called racist multiple times. And you know why? Because they got fired. Because they were cheating doors. like faking. They were marking them from their hotel room, acting like they're actually there. You're going to get fired for that. We're trying to win an election. We're not just looking for numbers. And in your contract, but they love to do it. And I'm not going to lie, we had some Democrats on our team here. And that's kind of the people I'm talking about. There were some undercover,
Yeah.
you know.
I've been called racist more times than I could count, and that's pretty sad.
You know what though? Here's the biggest thing
Same.
now too. I think so. Last night I was at a watch party, and we were throughout the day. I will say that I was describing the day being cautiously optimistic. I felt, we were in the best position to win the presidency. I didn't expect all 312 electoral votes. I will say that right now. I was happy. I was happy with 287, 297 with Wisconsin in the 297 bracket.
Look, we freaked out when we won Pennsylvania. Like this whole house went crazy.
Here's the thing too with that. So whenever I was watching, for the first swing state to get called was North Carolina, which they called super early, in the night for Trump, and then after that was Georgia. It's like, okay, now we're feeling really good. Pennsylvania, that was the big fish. That's the one that we wanted.
It was over at that point.
Yeah, it was over at that point.
And then, but here's the thing then. As soon as Wisconsin got announced, that I think was the nail in the coffin.
It was because he wasn't at 270 yet when they called PA, but, Wisconsin was really when it was like, okay, it's
over.
It's done.
That was the nail in the coffin, because there was no path to victory for Kamala.
Both states that I was in charge of, we won both. Nobody can give me any type of crap for 2020 anymore. I'm just letting you know.
No. Graves can say that he helped put the final nail in now soon to be former Vice President Harris.
You know what's even funnier is that
her career is over.
Kamala Harris, as vice president, has to certify the election. So she has to certify her own loss.
I
forgot. Isn't that funny to think about?
I forgot about that. Oh,
she has to do it. She's got to write down a paper of, which I mean, originally, so she did her.
She's got to gavel it and everything, dude. Like,
she did her concession speech earlier today, obviously, and she had called Trump before Joe Biden called Trump. So it was originally not going to be until 6 o'clock, and then it got pushed up to 4 o'clock, because it's like, what are you conceding at 6 o'clock for? They already called the election, So
she probably just was like, I want to go ahead and get this over with.
This is not like Trump's 3 points away from 270. I'm going to go ahead. This is
he was already cleared.
Majorly.
I think he was what, was he at 277, I think? And then earlier today, he won Michigan in like the afternoon sometime, which a Pennsylvania delegate, I think they were on like Fox and a couple of other shows talking about what they think the reason that Kamala lost. And part of it, I think, is because of Tim Walz. If she had picked Josh Shapiro, we would be seeing a very different story. But she picked Tim Walz in the theory that she couldn't, anger the Muslim voters that she would need.
I'm gonna bring up something from a consulting side. What do you want to do in an election like this? You had like 100 days left from when Joe Biden drops out and you get moved up so that y'all can keep your money. That's the whole reason. But what do you do? Would you rather take, and this is just a blank scenario. Would you rather take the governor of a state that is already like 10 points blue on average, or the governor of a state that is literally a toss-up? Which one do you think is a better choice to take for your side? Definitely the toss-up.
Yeah.
So, because here's the thing, if there was no realm,
they would have won Pennsylvania, 100%.
Oh yeah, well, because Josh Shapiro, over half of his state likes him. That's the thing. He's got a crazy high. He's got a crazy high favorability And I describe him, he's got like the Obama swagger. He's just,
Yeah.
people like him. He's just a cool guy. What he says is nonsense, but he's just a nice guy.
And I think he's going to be a problem down the road. And, I told y'all my thoughts on this. Two things. The Democratic Party was testing two theories. Could they just throw up anybody last minute and they get the vote because it's a Democrat and it's because the party says here? And I think they were trying to save him for later. I think that they thought that there was still a good chance they could lose this, even if, they were pushing it as hard as they can. The media was pushing it as hard. I don't think they thought it'd be this, but I think they thought there was a small chance they could lose. And they were like, we don't want to tarnish him with a lost national election, because that can be a nail in the coffin for a politician. If you lose once, your party doesn't really want you to run again. You'll have a lot of people say, don't even try it. Now, would it been a crucial punch to him? I don't know. That's a big what if. But I had a lot of people tell me from behind the scenes that the whole reason they didn't pick him was because they're saving him. Saving him probably for, 28. Who knows? Because they're going to want to come back with a vengeance now.
I could see the top two Republicans in 2028 being Vivek and JD, and then Josh Shapiro being theirs. That's what I feel like is going to happen.
So I will say there's been a lot of muling that Vivek I can never pronounce Vivek's last name correctly. So
Ramaswamy.
Thank you.
I don't even want to try. I'm scared. I'll get canceled on my own deadgum show for the second time, and I'm only 31 episodes in.
Sorry.
You didn't get me canceled. One of my other friends did.
I didn't get you canceled, but I got you flagged.
You got my episode flagged for cussing a bunch. Yeah, there's only one.
I thought it was because I said something about abortion.
No, you and Sam contributed to it. I'll throw Sam.
Oh, you're talking about that one.
Yeah,
okay,
it was the one
that means that I've done it twice. Then I've gotten you flagged twice.
Yeah, you've gotten me flagged twice. Sam helped when we went on Tim Waltz about calling him a pedophile, and I think the phrase that got flagged was, "Well, when Tim Waltz wins, we can know what he's bringing to his house." Something like that was said by one of us, and it got the whole episode flagged.
That's crazy.
That's just because they knew it was true. They knew we were on to them.
Oh, YouTube sent me multiple things. That's the only that was just on the audio. Y'all have got me in YouTube is pissed at me. It's always pissed at me.
So with Trump winning Michigan, with even then, like a lot of like the Arab and Muslim population were supporting Trump. To my surprise, I thought Trump was not going to win Michigan solely on the base that Gretchen Whitmer, who's of course the governor of Michigan, has been so entrenched in Kamala's campaign. And I think she does something with the DNC also, that she was going to use her machine to keep keep Michigan in play for Kamala. So that was my theory. I also was like very tossed up about Nevada, only because it's only recently red. They flipped the governorship in 22, and I don't even know if it's because oh no, there he is.
There you go.
Like, I don't know if it was because they wanted Republican leadership or they were just tired of their governor before. So it could have been a good amount of both, but I don't know.
Reno went red.
Oh, Reno went red?
Yep, I'm looking at the Nevada map right now since you're talking about it. Las Vegas is that Clark County is the only one that went blue.
That's not surprising. That's where everyone lives. I mean, we lived there,
Yeah, they're in Henderson.
Yeah, exactly. So those two, apparently Sam Brown is still ahead in the Senate race there. We don't know what's going on in that race.
I hope he wins that.
That'd be another sweet pickup, honestly. And then Trump officially won Nevada about an hour-ish ago. And about maybe 35 minutes ago, it was finally called for Arizona that Trump won, and that's sealed in the 312 electoral votes. And well over 50% of the popular vote, which has not been done since what, Graves? You said 04 with Bush.
04, yeah.
Yeah.
So in 20 years,
and
it's
We're
let's
up by 5.1% in Arizona.
wow.
oh wow.
Let's talk about the popular vote. Let's I'm being asked to take more commercial breaks, so we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the popular vote and a couple other things. If I would have forgotten to bookmark that, I'd been kicking myself all night editing this episode. All right, we're back. And let's talk about the popular vote, because I think this is the first time Trump's won the popular vote. He didn't win it in 16. He didn't win it in 20. And so I think that shows a couple things. And something I want to talk about is why I think North Carolina and Georgia are red right now is and why Trump also has the popular vote is he's proven himself to be a man of the people and someone that actually cares about the American people. And that was put on full display after Hurricane Helena. I think that
shot.
Yeah, that and getting shot. I mean, the assassination attempt proved a lot, but the hurricane happening this close to the election and the fact that the Biden-Harris administration gave so much money to the illegal immigrants that the funds for the emergency service organization, I always forget the name, was so
FEMA?
low they could not give any money to the hurricane victims. They gave like $750 a family. Meanwhile, they're giving iPhones, free housing, $400,000 or $100,000, something like that.
It's not
jet
even
flights.
It's not even the fact that it was, FEMA wasn't actually using funds more than likely than not for non-disaster related purposes. It was the fact that I think the average American citizen and a lot of us in general just saw through the smoke screen. You know what I mean? Because before Biden dropped out, Kamala Harris was one of the most disliked vice presidents in modern history. Nobody liked her, but then all of a sudden, in 3 weeks of her running, she's like America's cool aunt, and that was a lot of the media boosting her. They tried keeping her in
she
that.
went on Saturday Night Live. That was so cringe.
Oh yeah, copying joke from joke with Trump too.
Here's the thing. Also, I think a lot of the success attributed to Trump was that he was willing to go into Lion's Den territory. He was on CNN. He was on ABC. He went to the National Association of Black Journalists convention. He was in crypto. He was with all these, maybe not necessarily not friendly people, but not friendly media by far.
No.
And he showed that he was willing to do it. Kamala went on Fox once, and that was only because she may have had like internals that were so bad that she's like, okay, now I got to go on Fox. And Brett Baer, to my surprise, I thought he was going to be a little soft. Brett Baer absolutely got her because
I don't trust him either. But I was surprised. I was impressed.
My favorite grill of his was like, "You're talking to voters about X. I forget what it was." And she's like, "Come on, you know what I'm talking about." He goes, "No, I don't."
I actually don't know what you're talking about. That's
that was a good one.
It was a great one.
I was like, okay, Brett Baer kind of went up for me a little bit, So I give Brett Baer some credit.
But yeah, no,
credit's due.
I'll agree with you. I think a lot of Americans saw through the facade that the Harris campaign was trying to put on her. But I definitely personally believe that the hurricane, that showed true colors. Trump's down there donating personal money, calling Elon Musk to come help. I mean, he's pulling favors out of his hat.
Where was their GoFundMe?
It's had a lot of money right now. Let me pull up my.
I was saying he started that GoFundMe for it.
Yeah, but
it hit like $1 million that day.
The Democrats didn't have a GoFundMe though. Trump's GoFundMe raised like at least $2 million or something.
I'll pull up the actual number for you right now.
And I do want to bring up something about North Carolina and that area because I was there in April and it really hit me hard, man. Like I was actually crying after this happened. So I do want to bring this up. Asheville. That's still part of the Smoky Mountains, and there's a place close to it. It's called Chimney Rock. I was in Chimney Rock in April with like 8 friends of mine from Tennessee, and that whole town is gone.
Yeah.
Like there's a river where it's such a small town. Like everybody lives up on the mountain, so you have that, but then you had this little strip of town that had some great places to eat and some, cool little small town bars. It's nothing crazy, but like it was a good vibe and it was really nice. And it's all gone. It's a river. They didn't give the people that I met there. I reached out to after that. That 750 they said they gave everybody. They denied every single person. Not only the people that I know, but the people that they know that live there too. Not a single person has gotten that $750, and their whole life is gone.
Yeah, I mean their life is ruined. The only thing we can compare to Mississippi, I feel their pain because with Katrina, that hit the southern part of Mississippi hard. And everybody was focused on Louisiana, and I'm not saying Louisiana didn't have the right to have some focus, but meanwhile, Mississippi is having that same reaction where, we lost whole towns. People lost their houses, their livelihood, and, we're getting ice, and the ice truck's running out. Like, I remember we didn't have power for months, and, we didn't get anything from the government, so I definitely feel them, and that's why I'm happy Trump stepped in because I do have the official numbers, and it's still open for donations. It's on my the Conservative Colonel Podcast Facebook page if you want to find it and donate. It's raised over $8 million.
Wow.
$8 million.
I did not think it was that high.
And there are people still donating, and 51,000 people donated. So, I mean, these people are I'm looking at some guy from, it doesn't say where he's from, but who donated $500,000. And that was recent. I mean, people are still trying to help out with this because they know the government is not coming to help. And look, I'm all for the government backing the heck out of my life and not doing anything. But disaster relief should be one of the things they should be doing. If you're going to take my money, why don't you take it and give it to some people that actually need it? And the fact that we wasted that whole organization on illegal immigrants that if they want to come over here legally, work their butt off, if you want to have a program to help them, I would love to see it. I know a lot of legal immigrants that would have loved to see that and needed that to help. But we didn't give them that. We gave them this emergency money that was for emergencies, and this big emergency hit, and there's another hurricane on the way coming straight for me. And,
That's why she moved to North Mississippi.
Yeah, and that's why they can't give them anything either. And you're telling me, I didn't know that there are people that still don't have relief. They've been denied. So that speaks volumes of the party. And
especially where like the priorities are.
Yeah, where their priorities are. And
it's overseas. That's where their priorities are.
And Harris, right after it, was on a podcast talking about, I don't even know, something stupid.
The name of that podcast is Call Her Daddy?
Call Her Daddy, yeah. And honestly, call the Alex Cooper, who's the host of that show. She was with Barstool. I think she's independent now. She got a lot of flack for having Kamala on. She's like, why and I think it's because of the hurricane situation as well. It was like right around that time.
That was the week after.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing. That entire week was like Kamala's friendly media blitz. She was on Call Her Daddy. She was on Steven,
You
someone, I
notice how
forget.
she stopped? She stopped talking. All right, so she didn't talk to the press much at first, and then she started to when her poll numbers started to get better, and then she stopped again as it started to get close to the election because she knew it was over. Like we actually even said, maybe we may have said this to each other before, but especially us within the Trump campaign have said, let her talk. She's gonna screw herself by just
Yeah.
talking. So
That's
you know.
that's exactly what Trump did during him and Biden's debate.
Yeah.
He just let Biden go on a rant, let him talk, make himself look stupid, and it worked.
It
Worked
like
perfectly. But then during
I
that
don't know
media
what he said at
blitz,
the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.
legendary. That's
legendary.
another thing too, is that Trump just has the aura. He just has that swag. That he just has that personality to him where he can just take something in and deflect and he can bounce it right back. He just
Yeah.
has that. And looking at numbers from I believe Fox for a voter analysis, this is his gains with demographic groups. With women,
Ooh.
he's 2 points better. Men, 3 points better. Non-college educated people, 6 points better. Hispanic voters, 6 points. Black voters, 7 points. Young voters, 10 points.
You know,
10 points better with the youth that are generally we're described as a bunch of liberals and we're
Yeah.
we're young liberals and we just want the government to take care of everything
between
whatever.
I
here and Georgia, Wisconsin and Georgia, I've had more than 200 people work for me. Guess how many of those people were white?
how many?
About 10%. That is how
Wow.
I knew we were going to win the election. It was not only my internal numbers, but it was also the team that was around me. It's like one of my team leads, part of my management group, was a black guy. The other one, an Egyptian American who served in the Marine Corps.
Wow.
Like, I mean, dude, I knew from being in Atlanta to, and also here in Wisconsin, in Milwaukee, like, I knew if they didn't cheat 100 times harder than they did in 2020, they were not gonna win this.
Oh, well,
I knew it was
speaking
over.
not necessarily cheating, but I saw this tweet earlier and I wanted to make it a note that here were the final baseline numbers for Democrat voters. 2004 with John Kerry, 59 million. 2008 Obama, 69.5 or 69.5. 2012 Obama, 65.9. 2016 with Clinton, 65.9. Kamala Harris, 2024, 66.4. Joe Biden, 81.3 million. So where did those random over 10, 12 million, 13, 14, whatever million, where did they
And
go?
Do we have the
that's
numbers for who all voted for Trump this year? Because I wanted to point out the popular vote and make a
we
point.
don't
Uh,
yet.
yeah,
I don't think we have the final
yeah.
numbers.
We have 83% in total, but a lot of
So
that's California.
yeah, well, what's it standing at right now, just for the viewers? And while you're finding that, one of y'all,
Well, I've already got it. If you mean
uh,
electoral, or do you mean I've got both actually. I mean
Like
electoral.
final person votes. I think it was like 70 million or something like that
So
last time I
right
looked.
yeah,
now, Trump is sitting at 72,560,841, while
wow.
Kamala is sitting at 67,878,826.
I don't know about y'all, but that gives me a lot of hope in the future of the conservative movement. Not only that, but like a state like Virginia, for instance, we came this close to flipping Virginia.
I
This
really
close.
thought we
I
were
thought
going
we
to.
had it. And
You
the reason
know,
that gives me hope is because Virginia has made a lot of great men and leaders in this country's history. And if we can get
Mhm.
Virginia back from the liberal cesspool it's become, because they've attacked Virginia hard to make sure that they have Virginia.
so to read on that
We have
point,
hope.
I live in Virginia now, and it's kind of crazy going from where I'm from in West Virginia, from a red state. So even then, Virginia is only really a blue state because of Northern Virginia, specifically Fairfax and Loudoun counties, because that's where if you work
Yep.
in DC, you probably live in Virginia. You live there because it's cheaper than living in
Also
DC,
Southeastern.
and you commute to DC. But you live in Northern Virginia. Southern Virginia, the best way that I've been told that it's described, since I've only lived here not that long, and I've obviously met plenty of people that are born and raised here. Northern Virginia and Southern Virginia is basically two different worlds. Northern Virginia is the more what you would call like diverse. This is where everything's at. This is where a bunch of people are at. Versus Southern Virginia, where it's just very rural and farmland. And even once you get outside of Northern Virginia, once you get outside of like Fairfax and Loudoun counties, it's country. It is just straight farms and country.
The rest of the state is red, basically, other than southern, like southeast. I'm looking at their map right now. Like Virginia Beach, in the southeast. Fairfax, she won that by 35%.
Yeah, and that's where I
Loudoun
live.
County by 16% in Loudoun County.
It gives me a lot of hope because I've been reading a lot of history books about the starting of the two American ideologies, conservatism and liberalism. And conservatism has always been talked about being founded in America anyway, in Virginia. And liberalism, Massachusetts. That's always been the two competing mindsets in America. Which one's going to win out? Federalist, anti-Federalist, it's been called many things over the times. Now it's called Republican versus Democrat. And they took our home base where we were founded. And now that we're fighting back, it gives me a lot of hope. And then we got Pennsylvania in there. Again, Georgia's in there. Michigan, Wisconsin.
Speaking of Pennsylvania,
we won all of her.
I don't believe they've called the race yet for Pennsylvania, but I would really love, for the Senate anyway, I'm sorry. I would love to pick up that Senate seat also. And because I guarantee you Bob Casey is going into a meltdown right now. It's a tight race, don't get it twisted. But I would really like to pick up that Senate seat because they've already called the Senate seats for Wisconsin and Michigan. Unfortunately, we're not getting those two, which I'm sad about. Arizona, I think it's basically almost a miracle at this point for Carrie Lake to win. She's down by a decent amount. Sam Brown still being ahead by a tight margin in Nevada, so maybe we can pull that off. But Pennsylvania, I have been very impressed with Dave McCormick's performance and everything with his campaign. And I think he could be a rock star at some point in time.
Yeah.
So I would really love for Bob Casey to get in there. Even then, at this watch party, the first thing to flip, I believe, was the Senate. That was with my home state, West Virginia. Jim Justice. By the way, it took them 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes to call West Virginia just completely.
Yeah, it was great.
They just called it. They're like, it showed up on the screen for like 2 seconds, and then they're like, okay, yeah, it's done. So Jim Justice flipping the Senate already put us at 50, and then Ohio. We won Ohio. We now control Ohio. When has that ever happened?
We've won that 3 times in a row, right?
Yeah,
we won Ohio in 2020 as well.
Yeah, we won Ohio in 16 and 20 and this year, yeah.
Because 2020 was the first time that the person that won Ohio didn't win the election. And we also won 18 out of 19 bellwether counties, which usually if you win even just 50% of those and Ohio, you're going to win. Something statistically, and I'm going into, I don't like calculus. I was good at it, but I hate it. the standard deviation, when you actually take into account 2016, 2020, 2024, or even go back a little bit farther, the standard deviation, compared to the mean for the 2020 election, when you combine the rest of them, it's like 1.23 away from the standard deviation. That is almost statistically impossible. Not only did you have the red bar going up, and then you have the blue bar, boop, 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 goes up above the red bar just out of nowhere, just straight line up. Not only is that not real and impossible, but we now have mathematical stuff to compare with this one. But I think they were too scared to do it again. I really think they were too scared to do it again.
Well, here's the thing. If that would have happened again, what would happen next? Is it just a full-blown battle royale and rumble with the federal
They don't
government?
want that.
At
They
that
don't
point,
want that.
you know?
Because they know they wouldn't win that. I mean, that would be impossible.
Yeah,
I think also, whenever you start looking into some of these races and all that, which, by the way, I am also very happy to say that Montana also flipped, which I mean, I called that from the jump.
Yeah, I don't know how we even had a blue person in Senate there.
He's the last one. He's the last main one. It was the same thing with Joe Manchin in West Virginia. And putting us at 52 seats, if we would pick up one or two more, that's just more bodies. I just also think that whenever you start breaking down the House numbers, the House is where I'm getting a little. If we win the House, we will have like a very slight majority.
Yeah.
Right now we're ahead in the House, but we essentially traded at first 3 seats for 3 seats. We took 3 seats off the cuff in North Carolina from the Democrats, but then in return, the Democrats took a seat in Alabama. They took a seat in New York. They took another seat in New York just today.
Took a seat in Alabama?
Yes, they redistricted a seat in Alabama, and it's now a blue district. And they did the same thing is going to happen in Louisiana. So Louisiana is going to gain a blue district. Then, on the flip side, we are ahead, not by much, but we are ahead right now in Alaska to maybe take back the Alaska congressional seat, which it's a Democrat in Alaska.
How does that even happen?
That's
my question.
Oh my gosh, the majority, the leader for Steve's in Louisiana. Oh my gosh, how the hell did I forget his name? The part of House leadership on
the bald guy?
Yeah. On his Twitter.
I can hear his voice, but I can't think of his name.
I can hear his voice.
On his Twitter, he shared a graphic congratulating one guy in Pennsylvania. But that race hasn't really been called and no one has conceded yet. So we may have flipped a seat there. And then another seat in Pennsylvania actually did get conceded. Pennsylvania's 8th district. We flipped from the Democrats. That one I was also really shooting for because the Republican candidate there, he's been a rock star this whole time too. Rob Bresnahan, shout out. I think. Steve Scalise. There we go.
Oh yeah.
Just forgetting high-ranking members of Congress, guys. I'm sorry. He congratulated this guy Ryan McKenzie in Pennsylvania's 7th district on winning, but again, I haven't seen anyone conceding. I haven't seen the race be called, so I think it's still kind of up in the air. We did flip a seat in Michigan from Democrat to Republican. It's the 7th district with Tom Barrett. He flipped the seat, so big shout out to him as well. And that I think is all I have so far. Other than that, it's just been they just take forever to call the races. They're just taking
Yeah.
forever. And the top ones to really look at again is two of them in Arizona that are toss ups, which the Republicans are at least ahead so far. So we'll see. There's 3 or 4, 5, 7 in California, 6 or 7 in California. One of them being an open seat that we may be able to flip. Um, then you've got the one in Maine. There's one in Maine that we may be able to flip. Somehow Don Bacon survived in Nebraska's second district, which they split. They split out a vote to Kamala Harris because that district's been so blue now. There, uh, there's one in Ohio we may be able to flip, but other than that, I think it's going to all be pretty much standard cookie cutter. Dem wins here, Republican wins here. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Again, if we do win the House, we win it by a very slim majority. We need 218 to win, but the majority,
Well,
we maybe get 219, 220, and that's me being optimistic.
you know what's important though is having the Senate more
Yeah.
than it is the House.
The Senate, that's why I want us to fill up the Senate. That's why if we can get Dave McCormick in Pennsylvania, Sam Brown in Nevada, if somehow Kerry Lake in Arizona squeaks by, we just be packing the Senate. I did think it was funny that Larry Hogan lost in Maryland, which Larry Hogan, he's a pro-choice Republican, so that kind of lets you know where he falls. I didn't expect him to win. I just thought it'd be funny.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's Maryland. The only Republican in Maryland is the new leader of the Freedom Caucus, and that's it. He's the only one. He's like the one solid red district in Maryland. I just thought it'd be hilarious. And then of course, California won their Senate race, which shocked anybody. You know what I mean? I think.
No, you could have put money on California, honestly.
Exactly. I need to start getting the poly market. That's what I need to do. I need to start betting.
That's
Instead of sports betting, I'm political betting.
Last night, all my team leads and stuff over here, they were like, dude, go look at poly market and Calci. I was like, okay. I went there, and we're talking 10 p.m. Central Time. It said there was a 92% chance on poly market for Trump to win and a 90% chance on Calci for Trump to win. And I was like, okay, not only looking at these numbers, like actual votes and stuff, but these betting markets too. I knew it was over. I started celebrating at 10 p.m. We all did. I was
celebrating far earlier than I did. I woke up to a text message from Jason, one of our old roommates, saying we did it. And he sent me like a picture of like his TV, and it was like after Wisconsin got called at like 2 a.m.
Asian.
He is. He's great.
Great.
Love Jason to death.
Don't say that on the air.
No. That's an inside joke.
That's my guide. That's my homie here.
They live together in DC.
Ah, okay. Oh.
So I think we are. It's still kind of surreal almost.
It really is.
It's like 2016 vibes.
Mm-hmm.
All day I was looking on my Twitter and it was just liberals melting down. I was like, this is 2016 again. Things are fun again. Of course, being in the area that I live in, which is a very blue area, the Dems around here obviously aren't very happy. I was just very we came within like 5-6% of Virginia, which I mean, that I think is at least if we can run people the right way in Virginia, because some Democrats may have been voting Republican 20, 30 years ago, and they just switched over to the Democrats. And I think if you especially engage with the youth here and like cost of living and the economy and stuff like that, I think you can engage the youth here because everybody I know has to have a roommate to live in Northern Virginia. And
Yeah.
that's just the reality of the situation.
I think it's extremely possible that we can completely take Virginia with some right movement. And I mean, we'll talk about that next week. The what now, if you will, like what's next for us that we need to focus on now. But we're going to take one more commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to close with Graves. I'm going to mess with Graves. I want him to talk about Wisconsin. I want to talk about everything he did, and then that's it. We're going to call a wrap there, folks. So we'll be right back after this commercial break. All right, we're back for our closing segment for this episode, and we're just going to let Graves talk about what he did in Wisconsin, all the great work, because Graves can officially brag that he was the final nail in Harris's coffin. A lot of people put some nails in, but Graves came in running up last minute in the fourth quarter and grabbed a sledgehammer to hit that last one in. So I just want to give Graves a minute to shine and thank him for all his hard work in this election because, boys, we have officially saved America.
That we have, and I appreciate you and anybody else who has told me, how happy they are about this. I cried a couple of times earlier today. Last night, there wasn't, it didn't really set in. We knew it was over, but it didn't really set in. And then today, just realizing what the last 4 years have been like and the amount of time that I put into it. That's the whole reason I got into it was when he lost. And, being able to talk to him back in June, end of June. So what, 2 weeks before he had the assassination attempt, being able to be on a Zoom call with him, talk about Ole Miss football. The fact I know he's going to call me tomorrow because the client's owner texted me saying that was going to happen tomorrow. I'm going to talk to him tomorrow. This is actually a real person who I put a lot of my time into, and we all put a lot of our time into. Sam's been working on the media side. You've been doing the podcast stuff, which has reached up here to Wisconsin. And, we've all been in this together. And that was the whole point of this whole campaign was giving it back to the people. So, we accomplished our goal. We've done over 450,000 doors here in the Milwaukee and the surrounding areas. We did 200,000 up in Eau Claire and some of these more rural counties up that way, and kind of Midwest and Northwest Wisconsin as well. My team did 200,000 in Georgia for him as well. I mean, we put a lot of stuff into this. If you put it together, it's about 800,000 total between those three projects. So we got it done. Both states that I was in, we won. And I don't take credit. Nobody does it alone, right? So my management team, people like you who have a podcast. I mean, not even just, it takes everybody. It's not just people like Joe Rogan. It's someone like you that also has a podcast that I'm able to show, people that work for me. I've had 200 people work for me since right before the Trump assassination. 200 different people. And they basically all stuck it out all the way through the election. I mean, we had a team here and in Georgia that really made it possible. When have you seen these early voting numbers that we had? When have you seen some of these, exit poll numbers that we've had? When have we ever had a ground game that the liberal media says is on par with the Democrats? We've never had that. We put together a dream team, not only with our canvassers, but with RFK, with his vice president pick that was going to run with him, with Tulsi Gabbard, who just became a Republican. I mean, Vivek came out of nowhere and has made an influence. Scott Pressler has a lot to do with Pennsylvania. You know, nobody did it alone. But I will say, Wisconsin, I had a lot to do with. And I'm tired. But it's been worth it
Well,
because we saved America.
In that regard, Graves, you're certainly correct. It doesn't fall on just one person. It takes a village. It takes a big village to get all this together. And earlier today, I called Graves. I was like, "Hey, I'm finally not busy. I gotta call him. I gotta call this guy, see how he's doing." Within like the second or third ring, Graves I just hear him, "Dude." And I was like, "Oh, he's been celebrating. I can tell."
Ratting on Graves,
I was
man.
like, we did it, bro.
I was like, we clutched. Trump clutched it, Now, and I think that was like right around the time that I think he was projected to win Michigan as well. It just kind of like Donald Trump tore down the quote unquote blue wall of Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania. He tore all of them down. That was
we got
Kamala's
Arizona and Nevada too.
Kamala's only chance to win was to win all three of those states. That was her only path to victory, basically. Yep. And she didn't get it. And not only just winning all 7 swing states, but again, the popular vote. The popular vote is still kind of crazy to me. That just means Donald Trump is one of, I don't know, I don't necessarily want to say he's one of the most popular presidents in history. But when you look at people,
it's one of the best.
People, they just recognize him as a real person. Nothing. He says something. Sometimes he can say something off the cuff, sure, but it's him saying it and not, a script where Kamala has to read off a teleprompter or whatever. Mind you,
I'm from a middle class family.
Kamala's only thing was a bunch of celebrity endorsements, which, I mean, who cares? And then you've got Joe Walsh and Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney, all members of Congress that either retired or got primaried. I thought it was really funny. And Cardi B. And Meg Thee Stallion. Don't forget Meg Thee Stallion. And Mark Cuban, that he eventually had to stop campaigning for her.
Oh.
Because he ruined her on The View.
Nobody cares, but he ruined his own. Nobody likes that guy anymore.
I think he's so like what. So we'll make a tier list. Number 1 person that put Kamala in the coffin, we're gonna say Graves because of Wisconsin. 2, we're gonna say Mark Cuban because he fudged her up after The View. And number 3. The most, probably the biggest one was Kamala Harris.
Oh yeah, she got in the grave herself and even tried to put some dirt on it.
And then she tries to go against somebody whose name is Graves. What do you think's gonna happen?
Yeah, I mean, you're going down. You're going 6 feet under.
It's symbolic and poetic at the same time.
Oh yeah, it's great.
So I think with all of that, it's still kind of crazy to think about. I think it's going to take a few days for all of us to kind of adjust and
I'm still trying to let it sink in.
Me too.
Trying to get that semblance back. I woke up this morning and I was like, you did it.
I expected them to do some so much funny stuff. Dude.
Yeah.
The fact they called it last night. I knew when Fox called it, it was over. Yeah, you can say whatever you want to about Fox. When they called it, it was over.
The thing too also is that we now have an RNC that is so effective. If something happened, they got it. They caught this one district or county, in Pennsylvania, that the voting machines were down. The RNC swooped in and made them stay open later than their original polling close time.
And they blocked the ballots they wanted to take in late in Georgia. But also the reason I was sitting here doing this and stuff is because Harrison, you and I earlier this year, we talked a lot of bad stuff about the RNC. But I've been telling a lot of my friends today, I was like, I have to give credit to the RNC because they were blocking some of this stuff. They were really on top of this stuff. Take out their fundraising stuff. What they did on this election day is part of the reason that some of that other stuff that we expected to happen didn't happen.
Yeah, and
So,
I'll give credit when credit's due because that's just who I am. I'm still going to be hard on them. To
same.
the viewers of the show that expect me to at this point, I will always be hard on my own party because I expect a lot of them. But to give credit when credit's due, they did do their part in making sure that this was too big to rig to steal something from Trump. And to make sure that if they did try to rig it, they swooped in very quickly to put a stop to it. And I will give them credit where it's due. In this election, y'all can take a breath for one episode of the Conservative Colonel podcast. I will not be attacking y'all. So y'all can breathe easy for one episode. Now, next week, no, maybe.
I like the fact that we have an RNC that likes winning and
Yeah.
actually putting resources and time and energy into worthwhile states and projects.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing is that we have now an RNC and we have a group that I think they genuinely care. And with Michael Whitley, I think is how you say his name, with Michael Whitley and Lara Trump, both chairing it, I think that it is certainly going to be an experience to see, and I could only imagine. I don't really know. None of us know what's going to happen next, but I think
No.
I see positive things for it, especially within the next couple of years. The next set of congressional races also are going to happen, and I don't know what's going to happen between them and the NRCC and the NRSC and whatever races come up and come about. But
I'll be able to tell you.
I'll at least be able to get me a job on there, Grace. How about
Dude,
Sam shot a shot tonight.
I can put you anywhere, dude.
Oh,
hey,
gosh.
you know what?
Look,
I shoot my shot when I can. I'm
Look,
just kidding.
guys, I'm
I'll
not
come
gonna lie
volunteer.
to you. The fact that we won, like I said, I talked to Trump a couple of weeks before he got shot the first time. Well, he never got shot again, but the first assassination attempt. I talked to him before that. And I'm telling you, this win, I'm not somebody that takes pride in, being, I'm not cocky. I'm nothing. But, I was able to put myself in a position that we were able to do this in Wisconsin. We were able to do this in Georgia. We were able to win all of these swing states. I only had to do with 2 of them. But think about the campaign as the whole. That's probably the best run campaign in the history of America. He worked at McDonald's. He did a garbage shift. He got shot. He had another assassination attempt. Iran tried to blow him up. I mean,
absolutely bonkers.
And that's not even including the 34 felony charges and then counting and getting raided and
the mugshot helped too. I've got a hat that has his mugshot.
The mugshot, honestly, iconic. No, the most iconic photos of this election are the mugshot, him with RFK Jr., his fist in the air, the photo of him and Elon at the one rally.
Yeah, Elon, where he's
Elon's like floating.
That, and Trump's looking at him like, what the hell's going on?
So confused.
Yeah, he turns around to look at him because Elon's
the McDonald's drive-through, iconic. Especially the memes that came after that too.
Oh gosh, it was great.
Donald Trump dominated the culture. Donald Trump became the culture because, again, as I said earlier, he's got the aura. He's got that he's got that swagger to him, you know, and people genuinely can tell, like, yeah, that's this guy, you know. It's not off of a script. It's not off a teleprompter. It's not rehearsed. He just does
Like
it.
with Kamala, if her teleprompter goes off, she's like,
she'll start laughing.
yeah. She just start. She'd be like,
because that was the only way. I think
stop.
that was their thing. They kept her on a quote unquote a tight leash.
Same with Biden, because they know they have no good candidates. We beat them in every economically, border, foreign policy. Trump's better than both of them at that. They had to put her up because they couldn't keep their money unless they did so.
Yep.
Because the Democrat Party only really has reproductive rights to run on.
Yeah, and guess what? How big of a deal was that? Because Trump has, I think people finally, maybe toward the end of the election, understood that Trump is not going to do a national abortion ban. We've been saying that. And Project 2025, by the way, not Trump either. There will never be a national abortion ban. We are not going to do that. It's up to the states, because if it's not in the Constitution, again, I'm a constitutionalist.
Thank you.
If it is not up to the states, if it's not in the Constitution, it is up to the states. Each state gets to choose individually. They vote on it. And guess what? Most of these states are going to allow you to have an abortion for probably most of your term, but some of them won't.
Mind you, Democrats also had decades to put Roe into the Constitution.
And they 50 years. They 50 years to make an amendment, and they didn't do it.
They don't want to. Yeah, they can. They don't want to do an amendment because it'd be too much work. But
true, they don't like to do anything.
No, they don't like to do anything with work. But
last thing that I'm going to say, because I know that you're I just want to say that I appreciate both of you for what you have done. I appreciate everybody that's been part of this movement. This wasn't something that someone did alone, not even Trump or, me, just because I was in charge of the entire state of Wisconsin. That's not what it is. It took everybody.
Yeah.
And we got it done. America's going to be better for these next 4 years. And, hopefully we get enough momentum to keep it going after this. But
I don't think there's a more perfect way to word it or even end on that. I think that might be a wrap. I know, Harrison, I'm a guest on your show. I don't want to completely steal all of that from you, but I think that's like the perfect way to tie it all up.
You know what, Sam? I couldn't agree more. I want to thank you and Graves for all the work y'all have done. Join us next Thursday. We'll be talking about, we kind of wanted to spin this episode talking about the election specifically and some of the results in the House and the Senate, and of course, with President-elect Trump, and kind of celebrate it. But next week, we do want to talk about what's next for not just Trump, but conservatives in general. What do we need to do to continue to make America great again? So make sure you support us. Go to conservativekernel.com. You can go to our store there and see a lot of our favorite episodes, stuff like that. And, of course, new episodes out every Thursday. Check us out on Spreaker, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon Music and Audible, Cashbox, Deezer, Podcast Addict, Pod Chaser, Listen Notes, and Good Pods. And, of course, the visual format of the show releases on Rumble and YouTube. Thank you all for watching. God bless America. And God bless Mississippi.